Hello and welcome to this edition of ET Now Hangouts with me, Ankita Saxena. Today we're going to talk about the business of cinema and how it's still grappling with the after effects of COVID and the onslaught from OTT platforms. And to put things into perspective, I'm joined by a man who has been at the forefront of corporatization of film studios in India and played a pivotal role in shaping the Indian cinema. I'm talking about Siddharth Roy Kapur. Hi Siddharth, welcome to ET Now Hangouts. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Siddharth, first question first. We've had the kind of releases that we saw this year, whether it's Saiyara or whether it's Mahavatar Narasimha or even Theatrical 2. They have managed to somewhere pull the audiences back to the theatres, which has seen a bit of a lull, for a while now. Is it safe to say that perhaps this year the theatres will make a comeback?
I think it's well and truly safe to say that that question that we all had after COVID, which is our audience is going to come back to cinemas, are theatres dead? That question has been definitively answered by the audiences and they've said an emphatic no. Theatres are not dead, we are coming back to the theatres. In fact, in 2023, you had the largest box office of any year in Indian cinema ever. So I think that was the first precursor of the fact that, theatres were back. 24 had a little bit of a dip, but that I would put down to content, right? Because in some years you have movies that work, in some years you have movies that might work, but not to the extent of the year before. Yeah. But I think 2025, like you rightly said, has shown us that the audiences are not just coming back, they're not necessarily insisting that we give them films only with big stars. So a film like Saiyara has gone and crossed 300 crores at the Indian box office, which is unbelievable. Yeah. It's unfathomable that a film with newcomers, of course with a very acclaimed director and with great music, but with complete newcomers would do that sort of business. Yeah. The other one, like you said, is Mahavatar Narasimha, which came out of the blue completely. I mean, you've had generations of people within the industry saying that animation doesn't work, and they were right. I mean, animation had never really broken through in India. But I think the genius of that film was that it was a mythological story told with animation. And, it had people coming out who had not come to see a movie for years in a theatre, right? You had families, you had people taking out their shoes outside the cinema and coming in. You had those sort of scenes. Yeah. The other example is a Japanese anime film has gone and done massive business at the box office. It's going to touch almost 100 crores, right? It's a film called Demon Slayer. And that again, I mean, anime used to be a subculture that people would talk about as being just in cities and a certain section of male youth audiences. But today it's broken out into the popular culture. So not just our audiences telling us that they're willing to come back to the cinemas, they're telling us that they're willing to come back for fare that earlier one would have imagined they would be watching in the comfort of their home. Right. And that I think is a great sign for the industry. That's a very good sign for the health of the industry.
Right. So, okay, OTT versus the theatrical release. How do you choose the platform? Because I know for a fact it's not the scale or the magnitude of a film that really decides the platform now, right?
Well, it depends. Again, there are no right or wrong answers in this. It is very subjective.
So there's no checklist.
I think it's an instinct more than anything else about something being a cinematic experience versus being something that might be a slower burn, something that people might need the comfort of their home to watch it because it doesn't necessarily reach out and grab them and make them come and buy that ticket on the opening weekend, right? So I think obviously series are a new art form altogether. Well, not new, they've been around now for quite long, but I think for us as a creative community, it's something that's happened over the last decade. Quality streaming series. Yeah. And I think our makers are getting better and better at those, and those obviously are best on streaming. But as far as films are concerned, there are some kinds of films that might be films that don't necessarily scream out at you like a horror does or like a love story does or like a mythological film does, but might be a light comedy, might be a drama, those might find a better home on a streaming platform. Right. So I think really the great part for creators today is you have the opportunity to be able to decide what will be better on which platform.
Right. But isn't OTT a better leverage in the sense that you get a better return on investment? And just by virtue of that, perhaps filmmakers are now looking at OTT as a safer bet, if you will.
It's safer, it's not necessarily better. And I'll explain that. It's safer because it is a cost plus model where you've got a budget and then you get your margin over and above that. And there isn't necessarily any profit sharing after that, but you're covered on your downside. You have no downside risk.
Absolutely.
Right? Whereas theatrical is a little more of a risk, of course. And of course, if you're working with a studio, again, you are covered. But then you have a potential upside as well based on the performance of the film and based on the commercial deal that you've negotiated. With streaming, your profit and your loss is both capped. In fact, for a creator, invariably, unless you go over budget, there's no loss really. So I think it's definitely more safe and secure. But the good part now is that therefore you can have a blended model. You can make some films for theatrical, some films for streaming, some series for streaming, and have a mixed model where you can tell all kinds of stories and have all kinds of business models to support those stories.
But why would you go for a theatrical release if you know, the downside is capped for an OTT release, and you know their viewership is also going to be more perhaps now with an OTT release? Why would one go for a theatrical?
The biggest risk in this business is not taking a risk at all. So I think if you look at a film like Saiyara as an example, if that had to be pre-sold to a streaming platform before release, what are the things that it had going for it? Sure, it had a great director, a great production house, and great music, but the stars were not known at all. And therefore, you'll get a limited number from a streaming platform, and rightly so, before the release of that film. But the fact that they had the gumption to go theatrical means that they had the opportunity to enjoy the upside that they did. And that is many, many-fold when you compare it to the margin that they would have gone if they had done that as a streaming film.
So is that what the filmmakers are doing now? They're perhaps going in for a theatrical release plus having that safety net of an OTT release afterwards?
So the theatrical release will always have a streaming window after, right? I'm talking about a comparison between a film that's made only for streaming and a film that goes theatrical. A film that's made only for streaming, suppose Saiyara was made only for streaming, it would have got a margin of between 10 and 25% of its cost as the profit for the makers. The fact that it went theatrical, when you look at the overall revenues of the film compared to the cost, it has made many, many times its cost, right? Which therefore means that it was very lucrative for those filmmakers to decide to go theatrical with that film.
So talk to us about the budget allocation. I know you're working on this magnum opus of, book based on William Dalrymple's The Anarchy, plus you're working on other OTT releases as well. How do you allocate the budgets? Because I know it's no longer that you don't tighten your purse strings just because it's a smaller platform like an OTT, because we've had a big release like a Sanjay Leela Bhansali's, what was that film?
This show called Hira Mandi?
Hira Mandi, I'm sorry. Hira Mandi released on an OTT platform. So the budget is no longer an issue even with the OTT release.
Well, I don't think it's no longer an issue, but I definitely think that the streamers are willing to take a bet on certain kinds of material, even if they don't necessarily have big stars in them. So Hira Mandi, the star is Sanjay Leela Bhansali, right? So they were willing to back a maker like Sanjay to be able to deliver something that had his stamp on it and that could go far and wide. And I think if you speak to them, they'll say it worked really well for them despite a very high budget. So that's the benefit today, where you can tell stories that require those kinds of budgets without necessarily going for big stars. Now, it isn't always easy, because I think our instinct has always been that if it's a big budget, then you need a big star. But I think today, both the streaming platforms and the studios and the filmmakers are seeing more and more that they're being rewarded with, sort of box office and the audience love and appreciation for even films that don't have stars.
Right. So let's talk about the casting bit now that we spoke about the stars. Are the filmmakers really willing to now bet 100 crore on an A-list star? Because it's proven time and again that it's really not the star, it's the content that's the king eventually.
Well, I wouldn't say the star system has gone away at all. A star still gives you a lot of awareness. You get a tremendous amount of recognition for your content because a star is in it. I think a great combination.
Salman's movies haven't really worked that well, if you look at the past.
I don't think it's because his stardom has dimmed. I think it's probably the kinds of movies and the quality of the films. So it's very rare that you'll come across a film with a big star that's a good film that you'll say hasn't done well, right? I think it's the quality of the movies, which is a good sign. I think what audiences are telling us is it's not enough to have a big star in a film. But I still think that the combination of a big star and a really good script and a good director can take the film into another level altogether, right? So I think it'll be too binary to say the star system is over and stars don't work anymore. I definitely think that you have to calibrate the value that you ascribe to a star, and therefore the remunerations need to be set accordingly. I do think that we had gone into a few years ago a bit of a frenzy with regard to fees, and those fees definitely need to now be more commensurate with what the audiences are telling us is the value of a star.
Right, but has that come down? Has that...
It's moving in the right direction, but I wouldn't say we're there yet. It's still got a way to go.
Right, and also in the which a quintessential hero or a heroine is perceived, I think OTT has changed a lot, you know, in terms of the content that's getting created. You think more localized content is appealing more to the audience now?
I think localized content for India has always been important. So in the South, for example, you have your own star system in the South, which is unrelated to Hindi completely. So I think even for the streamers, they're realizing that they do want to go more and more regional, and they are. So they're making shows and movies in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada. You've got a Bengali streaming platform, you've got a Gujarati streaming platform, and you know, you've got Hindi, obviously, which is a mainstream. So yes, I think audiences are today being quite eclectic about their choices. It's not like one monolithic, we only watch this. It's there. I mean, those who are watching a show in Bengali are also watching a Hindi film, right? And are also watching a Tamil film dubbed in Hindi or in Bengali. So I think today you can't define that viewer as watching only one thing, which is a good thing.
Right. So what is making the audience stick? I know it's a difficult question. There's no secret sauce, if you will. But as a filmmaker, I'm sure you have your ear to the ground. What is really making the audience stick?
You know, it might sound like a very general thing to say, but I think if you're talking about theatrical today and what is bringing audiences into theatres, I think things that are able to evoke strong emotions in them. The way that Saiyara was able to do, the way that Mahavatar Narasimha was able to do, the way that, even a Japanese anime film, which has that fan culture, that cult following, right? They want to be moved and they want to be affected by things. They don't want something cookie cutter. They don't want something that they could, because now they're so jaded with the amount of content they've watched, right? This is a whole generation that's grown up on really low data costs and easily available video. So their life is inundated with reams of content. So to get them into the cinemas, I think today you're going to have to give them something that really moves them.
Right. So why has India not been able to produce a film that is of a global stature? Why are we not there? I mean, we have had some very big magnum opus produced in India, like Bahubali. We've also had, we had Brahmastra, which had a very Indian story, but a very international way of storytelling, of filmmaking. But none of them have really made a mark on a global scene. What is stopping us, really?
So I think there are two levels of this, right? One is the quality of some of our films, I think, has definitely been at a global level, right? I'd say if you look at the history of Hindi cinema, Indian cinema, for that matter, I think we've made films that have had the ability to be able to cross boundaries.
Right.
We haven't had the distribution in the past to be able to do so, right? And the ability to actually, from a business standpoint, take those films out to those global audiences, because everything was analog and you actually had to be physically available to distribute your movies in these territories. Today, we don't have that excuse anymore. I think number one, our films are available in 190 countries around the world at the flick of a button, right? Two is, I think we've now got all the global majors here, so the ability to actually get learnings in terms of how to get our films distributed is there. I think now is the time that we can really put the onus on ourselves to say that we need our own Squid Game, we need our own Parasite, we need our own Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, we need our own like sort of Money Heist to come out of India. And I think it will. I think now that the challenge of distribution is over, we need to have that belief in ourselves to be able to just go out there and do it.
So besides distribution, what would be the other ingredient of the secret sauce that is perhaps missing? Because
I think finding a subject that's able to resonate. And
globally.
Here, globally. And here I don't mean pandering to the West or the Far East at all. What I mean is, you take the example of Dangal, right? Dangal was a film that was a very rooted Indian story. But its ability to cross boundaries, like in China, was because it told a very human story. And it told it with complete authenticity. And I think fathers and daughters in China were able to identify with that conflict and that dichotomy of the parent thinking that they live their dreams through their sons and then having to do it through their daughters in a culture like that. The show I'm working on, really, the show that is based on William Dalrymple's book, The Anarchy, it's a story of the East India Company and how it came and colonized an entire subcontinent. Now, I feel it's relevant to any country that's been a colonizer and any country that's been colonized. You know, because in a sense it tells your story. It's also, in a sense, the first time that a corporation came and took over a subcontinent. Today we talk about large multinational corporations becoming more powerful than nation states. Here's where it actually happened 400 years ago. The first time it actually did happen, where a corporation had a private army. Now I think that is very relatable, right? And if you're able to tell that story in a way that can appeal to a global audience, then I think you can have something that crosses boundaries.
Right. So let's talk about this, the Anarchy. I mean, it's not a small film, it's a big budget film, a big share of your time, big share of your money. And of course, you've told me that you've got a foreign Hollywood corporate studio to produce the film with you. Talk to us about that. What are the timelines and the budgets?
Yeah, sure. So it's a series that we're working on. And we've tied up with Whip, which is a production house in the US that's been behind shows like Mayor of Easttown and Task, which is on HBO right now. And we've got Stephen Frears, who's a really acclaimed director, he's sort of Oscar nominated and BAFTA winning, has worked with pretty much every major star in the last 20 or 30 years, launched the career of Daniel Day-Lewis, who to come on board to direct it. And we've written scripts we're very happy with, and we're in the process right now of talking to prospective partners in the US and the UK about sort of coming on board. So yes, it does take a fair amount of time to mount these projects, but it is very exciting because that, I think, is the next boundary for us to cross.
Right. Is it done with the perspective to cross boundaries?
It is, because we think that it's as relevant as it gets. It's a story of colonization, right? What could be more globally relevant than that?
I'm sure. Also, Siddharth, tell us what's exciting you right now. You know, we are going through a very tectonic shift in the way people are consuming content. I think that it started post-COVID. As a filmmaker, what's exciting you at this juncture?
What's exciting me is how unpredictable the audience has shown itself to be. And I think that is wonderful, because that actually means that you just throw out the rule book. If ever there was a rule book, which in this business there really shouldn't be, but most people try to write one, you just have to throw it out the window and go with what the audience is telling you, which is that give them something compelling and moving, and they aren't going anywhere. They will come to the theaters, they will watch it on a streaming platform, they will seek it out. I mean, we keep talking about it's the age of distraction, it's the age of reels and TikTok and microdramas and social media. But you're also seeing that it's not like because of that audiences don't want to watch long format content. They're very happy to do that as well. It's just about giving them something that's compelling enough for them to give you their time and attention, which today is at a premium.
Right. Absolutely, Siddharth. Wishing you all the best for that. But before we let you go, we have a quick rapid fire for you. Okay. Your all-time favorite film?
Sholay.
Okay. Your riskiest bet till now?
Setting up my own production house.
Okay. A film of yours that you thought would do well but didn't do well?
Mumbai Meri Jaan.
Okay. So on a Netflix night, who has a better pick, Vidya or you?
It's a good question. I have to say her, right? Because
I mean, are you obliged to say that? You could say it's you, but
no, it's her. I think it's her.
She has a better choice.
Yeah. She makes a better selection. I think I tend to gravitate much more towards drama and thrillers, and she has a more eclectic selection. So I end up seeing things that I wouldn't otherwise because of her.
Okay, interesting. Your favorite Vidya Balan film?
Well, I think Parinita is one of my all-time favorites. Okay. But I think in addition to that, Kahani and Tumhari Sulu are two other films that I really love.
Okay, interesting. Also, one film that you think you really wished you had made?
Probably Saiyara. That's the nearest.
But that's for the numbers. You really think you wanted to make Saiyara?
I enjoyed the film. I really loved it. I really loved it. It moved me. I loved the music. I thought it was just done so authentically and with so much, with so much truth in it. Okay. And I think I could literally see the younger generation around me swooning away while watching the film. So that's a film I would have loved to have made. Okay,
interesting. Your favorite actor from the current lot?
Is Ranbir still considered the current lot? Yeah.
And your favorite actress as well?
So Ranbir Kapur. Favorite actress is Vidya Balan.
Of course, Vidya Balan. On that note, Siddharth, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us.
Thank you.